I never imagined my life would turn into a courtroom battle over a tree, but not just any tree. This was a 150-year-old oak, a living monument that stood tall in my yard long before any of us were even born. It shaded my kids on summer afternoons, carried the stories of generations, and meant more to me than I can put into words. And yet, one morning it was gone, chainsawed down by my HOA Karen of a neighbor. And the worst part, when the massive oak finally fell, it didn't crash into my house, it crushed hers. Her roof caved in, her car flattened, her kingdom ruined. You'd think that was karma enough, right? But no. She turned around and sued me. I moved into Willow Creek Estates with my wife and kids because it seemed like the perfect place. Good schools, safe streets, neighbors who waved from their driveways. What I didn't realize was that behind all that freshly cut grass and color-coded mailboxes lurked a different kind of danger, the HOA. And at the head of that beast was Karen Peterson, the self-crowned queen of the cul-de-sac. Picture a short blonde bob so stiff it looked plastic, a pastel cardigan that doubled as armor, and of course that damn clipboard she clutched like it was a sheriff's badge. From the moment I moved in, I learned that Karen didn't just enforce the rules, she weaponized them. If there was a bylaw, she'd twist it. If there wasn't one, she'd invent it on the spot. And her favorite target, my oak tree. She said it blocked her sunlight. Dropped too many leaves lowered her property value. The first time she brought it up, she stood in an HOA meeting wagging her finger at me like I was a schoolboy shouting, "That tree is a menace." I nearly spit out my coffee. Lowered property value. Half the neighborhood loved the shade, but reason never worked on Karen. She was addicted to drama. The notices started piling up on my door: hazardous vegetation, obstructed visibility, squirrel infestations. Yes, squirrels. Every week there was a new excuse to harass me. At first I laughed it off. My wife and I even made a binder labeled Karen's Greatest Hits. But over time the jokes stopped being funny. Neighbors started whispering at block parties. I overheard her telling people, "If that tree falls, it'll crush your roof too, and he's too selfish to care." She wanted everyone to hate me. I tried reasoning. I even invited her over for coffee, thinking maybe if she saw the beauty of the oak, the history carved into its bark, she'd back down. She stared at it for 2 seconds and said, "If you cared about this community, you'd cut it down and put in a fountain, something tasteful." That's when I realized it wasn't about safety. It wasn't about property values. It was about control. Then came the threats. One autumn evening, she marched across the street, hands on her hips, eyes blazing. "If you don't do something about that tree," she hissed, "don't be surprised when someone else does." I laughed, but my son asked me later if she was going to hurt the tree. I told him no. I told him the oak had stood for 150 years and it would stand for 150 more. I was wrong. Days later, I woke up to a sound that sliced right through my sleep, the high whining scream of a chainsaw. At first, I thought it was someone trimming hedges. Then a second saw roared to life and the house trembled like a bass note had struck beneath the floor. My stomach dropped. I threw on jeans, bolted outside barefoot, and there they were. 3 men in mismatched work clothes, no safety gear, hacking away at my oak. An old pickup idled at the curb, ropes and gas cans rattling in the bed. One guy was balanced on a ladder, slicing through limbs as thick as my torso, while another shouted, "Cut faster!" And there she was, Karen, standing proudly in her driveway in a pink cardigan, arms folded, clipboard clutched to her chest like a general surveying the battlefield. "You had months to take care of your hazard," she called out smugly, loud enough for the whole cul-de-sac to hear. "We're resolving the safety issue for the community." I yelled for them to stop, shouted that it was my property, that the tree was protected by law, that I was calling the cops. Karen smirked. "By the time they get here, the danger will be gone." I hit 911 phone, shaking in my hand, while I filmed everything: the workers, the ropes, the property marker right at the base of my oak. Neighbors in pajamas poured out of their houses, kids staring wide-eyed from porches. Some whispered, "Is that even legal?" Others shook their heads in disbelief. But the saws kept cutting the trunk, groaning leaves trembling like the tree itself knew it was dying. And then, the inevitable. With a cracking roar, the oak leaned not toward my yard, but straight toward Karen's house. Time slowed. Her eyes widened. Her husband dove aside, and the massive crown slammed into her roof. Shingles exploded. Windows shattered. Her car crumpled like a soda can. The street fell silent until Karen screamed a sound like nothing I'd ever heard. My house. You! This is your fault. And then she pointed at me, wild-eyed, spitting rage. Your tree, your liability. You'll pay for all of this. Even in that moment, grief hit me harder than anger. I wasn't looking at her ruined roof. I was staring at my oak, my guardian reduced to rubble because she couldn't stand shade. The police arrived within minutes. I showed them my video, the stump the property line. Karen shrieked at them to arrest me. When asked if she had a permit, she froze, then muttered, "It was urgent." The officers exchanged looks that said everything. For a brief second, I thought the nightmare was over, but 2 days later I was served with papers. Karen was suing me for negligence, for damages, for emotional distress. Reading that lawsuit at my kitchen table, I actually laughed. It was so absurd it felt like satire. She destroyed my tree, wrecked her own house, and somehow I was the villain. But laughter turned into dread fast. Lawsuits aren't jokes. They're long, expensive, exhausting. And Karen knew that. That week broke me down. I couldn't sleep. Neighbors avoided me. Karen strutted around like she'd already won, telling everyone I'd pay through the nose. For a moment, I even wondered, was I wrong to keep the tree? Should I have just cut it down to avoid all this? The thought of giving in gnawed at me. Maybe if I'd just settled, it would go away. But then I remembered the stump. The perfect, clean saw marks. The history lost. My kids asking why their tree was gone. And something inside me hardened. No. She crossed the line, and I wasn't going to roll over. I hired a lawyer. I gathered every photo, every video, every receipt proving I wasn't even home that morning, and I prepared for war. In court, Karen strutted in like she owned the place. She painted herself as the victim, dabbing fake tears, claiming she'd begged me for months to act. Her lawyer called the oak a ticking time bomb. But when our evidence rolled out, the tide turned. The video showed the crew on my property. The police report backed it up. The city arborist testified the tree was perfectly healthy and protected by law. And then came the workers themselves under subpoena, admitting Karen had hired them in cash, told them no permits were needed, and ordered them to start before sunrise. My lawyer slid photos across the table, Karen standing in her driveway, pointing at the men giving commands. The courtroom buzzed. When asked if it was her in the photo, she faltered, lips trembling, and whispered, "Yes." My lawyer's voice cut clean through the silence. "So to summarize, you trespassed. You hired unlicensed workers. You cut down a protected tree without a permit, and when it fell on your own house, you sued my client. Is that correct?" Karen exploded, shouting incoherently until the judge slammed his gavel, and then came the verdict. The judge ruled I was not liable. Karen was guilty of trespass and destruction of property. She was ordered to pay me $240,000, the appraised value of the oak plus legal fees plus damages. She gasped like the words had stabbed her. Her lawyer slumped. The bailiffs escorted her out as she shrieked, "You've ruined me!" Her voice echoed down the hallway until the doors shut. And that was it. No cheering, no victory parade. Just the sound of justice landing like a clean axe stroke. If this whole nightmare taught me anything, it's this: boundaries aren't rudeness. They're survival. When someone tries to make their chaos your responsibility, you don't scream louder. You stand firm, gather receipts, and let the truth do the heavy lifting.